Walk into almost any optician's store and look at the wall of frames. Ray-Ban, Oakley, Purcell, Oliver Peoples, Prada, Chanel, Burberry, dozens of brands, different styles, different price points, different logos. It looks like a competitive market, independent designers battling for shelf space. But the structure behind those frames is far simpler than it appears, because nearly every pair of glasses you have ever tried on, regardless of the name printed on the temple, was made by one company. One corporation manufactures the frames, distributes them, sells them in its own stores, and in many cases insures them through its own insurance company. The eyewear industry is not a market. It is a closed loop. And to understand how that happened, we have to go back to a small town in northern Italy. Chapter 1. The Man Who Saw the Structure. In 1961, a 26-year-old Italian named Leonardo Del Vecchio started a small workshop in Agordo, a mountain town in the Dolomites. He did not set out to build a fashion empire. He set out to make parts, small metal components for other companies' frames. Hinges, nose bridges, temple tips. The invisible pieces nobody thinks about. What Del Vecchio understood, earlier than almost anyone, was that eyewear was not primarily a fashion business. It was a manufacturing business. The brand on the temple meant nothing if you could not produce the frame efficiently. So while other companies focused on design and marketing, Del Vecchio focused on production. He scaled, he automated, he integrated. By the 1980s, his company, Luxottica, was not just making components, it was making entire frames for other brands under contract. And that position, the invisible manufacturer behind the visible brand, gave him a view of the industry that nobody else had. He could see which brands were growing, which were struggling, which had distribution but no manufacturing, and he began to make a calculation that would reshape the entire industry. Chapter 2. The acquisition cascade begins. In 1988, Luxottica made its first major move. It acquired Ray-Ban, at the time a struggling American brand owned by Bausch & Lomb. The deal was small by modern standards, but it established the playbook that would define the next 3 decades. Step 1. Acquire a brand with cultural recognition but operational weakness. Step 2. Fold its production into Luxottica's manufacturing system, cutting costs dramatically. Step 3. Raise prices, because the brand now sat in a luxury distribution channel. Step 4. Use the profits to acquire the next brand. Over the following decades, the cascade accelerated. Purcell, Oliver Peoples, Alain Mickley. The licensed brands came next. Prada in 2005, followed by Chanel, Burberry, Ralph Lauren, Dolce & Gabbana, Versace, Armani, Coach, Tiffany. Each deal followed the same logic. The fashion house did not want to manufacture eyewear. It wanted the royalty. Luxottica offered a simple proposition. We build the frames, we distribute them, we pay you a fee. You keep the brand prestige, we keep the margin. By 2025, Luxottica controlled over 30 eyewear brands, but the brand portfolio was only the visible layer. The control went deeper. Chapter 3. When your store becomes their store. Manufacturing the frames was one thing, but controlling what consumers actually saw and where they bought required a second layer. In 1995, Luxottica acquired LensCrafters. Then came Sunglass Hut in 2001, Pearl Vision, Target Optical, Sears Optical. By the 2000s, Luxottica owned the largest optical retail chain in North America, the largest sunglass chain in the world, and the optical departments inside some of the largest big box retailers. This was not diversification, it was vertical foreclosure. A customer walking into LensCrafters sees a wall of frames. It looks like choice. But Luxottica manufactures most of those frames. It distributes them through Luxottica-owned logistics. It sells them in Luxottica-owned stores. The customer believes they are choosing between brands. They are choosing between Luxottica products in a Luxottica building. And here is where the system becomes interesting. Because even if you avoid LensCrafters, even if you go to an independent optician, Luxottica still controls what that optician can stock. Independent opticians depend on frame suppliers. If the largest supplier decides to limit distribution, raise minimum orders, or prioritize its own retail stores, the independent shop has almost no alternative. The choice narrows. The prices stay high. By now the pattern should be clear. Luxottica makes the frames. Luxottica sells them in Luxottica stores. But what you're about to see, the insurance layer, is where this system becomes genuinely unbreakable. Take a moment right now and subscribe, because this is the part of the story most documentaries skip: the insurance layer. Stay with me. Chapter 4. The insurance layer nobody sees. There is a fourth layer to this system, and it is the one that makes the lock-in nearly unbreakable. In 2004, Luxottica acquired EyeMed, one of the largest vision insurance companies in the United States. Suddenly, Luxottica was not just making the frames, distributing them, and selling them in its own stores. It was also deciding which frames your insurance would cover. The mechanics are subtle but powerful. Your employer offers vision insurance. That insurance plan covers a certain dollar amount toward frames, but the plan also specifies which frames are in-network, which opticians you can visit, and which brands qualify for full coverage. EyeMed, owned by Luxottica, steers patients toward Luxottica-owned retail locations and Luxottica-manufactured frames. If you choose an independent optician outside the network, your coverage drops. If you choose a truly independent frame brand, your out-of-pocket cost rises. Most people do exactly what the system is designed to make them do. They walk into lens crafters, they pick frames from the in-network wall, they use their EyeMed benefit, and they never realize they have been routed through a closed loop. The result is a system where the manufacturer, the retailer, and the insurer are the same entity. In any other industry, this would be called a vertical monopoly. In eyewear, it is called Tuesday. Chapter 5. The pricing illusion. To understand what this system costs consumers, you have to look at what happens between the factory and the face. A typical acetate frame costs Luxottica between $10 and $30 to manufacture. The materials are inexpensive. Acetate is a petroleum-derived plastic. The hinges are stamped metal. The lenses, even with coatings, that cost a few dollars to produce. The total manufacturing cost of a pair of branded glasses is rarely above $40. That $30 frame enters a distribution system owned by the manufacturer. It arrives at a retail store, often owned by the manufacturer. It sits on a wall illuminated by lighting designed by the manufacturer. A sales associate trained by the manufacturer helps you choose it. Your insurance, owned by the manufacturer, covers part of the cost. And at the end of that closed loop, the consumer pays $300, $400, sometimes $600 for a product that costs $30 to make. That is not a markup. That is the economics of a system with no outside. Independent frame makers exist, but they operate at a massive disadvantage. They cannot access EyeMed's insurance network at the same scale. They cannot place their frames inside Luxottica's retail stores. They compete for shelf space in independent opticians, where the dominant supplier is also their largest competitor. Most do not survive. And that is the point. The system was not designed to produce the best glasses. It was designed to produce the highest margin per pair of glasses by removing every alternative. Chapter 6. Merger. How the loop closed completely. In 2018, Luxottica merged with Essilor, the world's largest lens manufacturer. Essilor made the lenses. Luxottica made the frames, ran the stores, and controlled the insurance. Combined, the new entity, Essilor-Luxottica, now touched every single component of a pair of glasses, from the raw material to the final fitting. The merger created a company with over 200,000 employees, an annual revenue exceeding 25 billion euros. It controlled frame manufacturing, lens manufacturing, retail distribution, vision insurance. And in many markets, it faced no meaningful competitor at any layer of the stack. The European Commission approved the merger with minimal conditions. American regulators did not block it, and so the largest optical company in the world became larger, not through innovation, not through better products, but through the quiet, patient assembly of a structure that left consumers with no exit. Chapter 7. What cannot be disrupted. The most durable monopolies are not the ones protected by law. They are the ones protected by architecture. You cannot disrupt Luxottica by making a better frame. Independent frame makers exist, and they make excellent products, but they cannot replicate the distribution network. They cannot access the insurance network. They cannot buy shelf space in the stores Luxottica owns. A better product cannot win if the customer never sees it. Even if an independent retailer offers competitive prices, most customers are steered by their insurance to in-network providers. The insurance layer funnels demand back into the same system, and launching a competing vision insurance plan requires decades of employer relationships that EyeMed spent 20 years building. The eyewear monopoly is not fragile. It is not a temporary market condition. It is an engineered system, built layer by layer over 60 years, that has eliminated the conditions in which competition normally emerges. And that is what makes a monopoly genuinely durable. Not market share, but the removal of alternatives. You have just seen a system where the manufacturer, the retailer, and the insurer are the same company. A closed loop that cannot be disrupted by a better frame, a better store, or a better insurance plan. My question to you, does a system like this need regulation, or does the market eventually solve it? I want to hear your answer in the comments. Drop it below, I read them. If you want to see how the same pattern plays out in a completely different industry, where the control is even tighter and the prices are even more divorced from reality, watch Death Care Cartel next. It is linked on screen right now. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden structures behind everyday industries, like and subscribe for more documentaries like this.